All right, here we are into the top 8. We have eliminated more than half of the competition at this point. It is down to just a couple of players, and we are going to have Mint versus UCG Neukkim. Mint we saw take out Teal Red in the top 32, and UCG is a team that has a lot of names here represented across the top cut. And I got to say, SJW, Mist Wraiths versus Anivia, this is one of the more one-sided matchups in Legends of Runeterra.
Yeah, if the Mist Wraiths are able to get off to a quick start here, and exactly like we see, we have the Elise, we have the Arachnoid Sentry, we even have a Stygian Onlooker, but we are going to hold that back in case, there is something like an Avalanche or some sort of removal here. But, this is what Mist Wraiths do. They go hard and go fast. Not the card go hard, just with fearsome units. And I'm curious to see, too, we got a Stygian Onlooker in hand, Boulevard. You know how much I love that card. There's a Ruination there. I'm curious to see if we're going to see a blowout with Stygian Onlooker being played after a Ruination comes down.
I'm a little surprised to see the Mist Wraith here rather than the Wraithcaller, just trying to go wide on board as much as you can. And we know that, obviously we have Caster Vision, but this is just an insanely weak hand out of Mint. Double Glimpse Beyond and the Rekindler, this is borderline nothing against a Mist Wraith deck. You're looking for Avalanches and Grasp of the Undyings and all these kill spells and healing spells, and even this Avaros and Sentry going to do very little against this fearsome deck. Things are looking pretty wrapped up here, and taking a look at those bans down in the bottom right corner, we do see that it was the Dragon deck that was banned out by, or for Neukkim rather, and then Shen Fiora taken off the table for Mint. I am so excited to see more of this Dragon deck a little bit later on.
Yeah, we've talked about this a couple times now in this particular tournament. This seems to be popular on the Korean scene right now, so I'm curious to see if it will be able to pick up a win in a little bit here for Mint. But, Neukkim just doesn't even respect the Ruination here. Just says, you know what? Screw it. You have 9 mana. I got more Stygian Onlookers. I'm just going to go ahead and play one. And here's the Ruination. And yeah, this is exactly why I love Stygian Onlooker. Feels good that you just ruinated an entire field of 5 followers, but, oh, hey, look, 2 mana for 8 damage. Yes, please, sign me up.
I've heard you talk about this play so often, and it's actually so rare that we see it, but gonna get really rewarded for getting that one board wipe tool out of your opponent and be able to push the 11 damage through. And without a Withering Wail as a follow-up for Mint, there's really not much that they can. You can get down the Anivia here, you top deck a Harsh Winds, that's okay, but it's not something that's going to help you survive. And even the spaces that you're going to clear up with this Anivia attack, Neukkim doesn't care about. That's going to pave the way for the Harrowing potentially.
Yeah, you are pretty free to just develop or play Harrowing. We have 2 Harrowing even, so even if for some reason there was another Ruination in hand, because we are on exactly 9 mana.
Oh, double Risen Mists.
Oh, wow, okay. We're actually going for the Harrowing, though. I would have liked to see the double Risen Mist into the attack.
Okay, yeah, just peeking at the Harrowing, deciding it's not as good as the Mists. And if I've run my math correctly, I believe even through Harsh Winds, this is going to be exact lethal.
Yeah. Yeah, you block the 4-2. You Frostbite the 2-5. No, it's actually going to be 1 more than necessary, I think. There's no other Frostbite. And yeah, we're going to see the surrender, and Neukkim going to take a quick game 1 there.
All right, game number 2, and Mint has decided to stick on that Anivia deck. Meanwhile, Neukkim going to swap over to Feel the Rush, and this is the matchup, SJW, that we saw Mint beat Teal Red with, just grinding them out of champions and Feel the Rushes, and the final Ladros coming down, just not quite able to get it done against Mint's Anivia, but a much better-looking hand on the side of Neukkim thus far.
Yeah, honestly, the Field of Rush early, I think, is going to come in big. Ladros may be big as well. It's really going to depend on kind of the draws on the side of Mint. But, we constantly talk about this matchup and, who's favored, who's got the advantage, and it's really hard. Like you mentioned, Mint was able to take a victory using Anivia. But I feel like Field of Rush, if it's able to get the Field of Rush off early, like on turn 9 as an example, or ramp up, in turn 7, you have 9 mana plus 3 spell mana, whatever it might be. If you do get one off early, it's kind of hard for the Anivia deck, I think, to really have enough answers to those early game threats. So I'm curious to see how early and how quick we're able to play this Field of Rush here.
Yeah, I think this matchup comes down more to what the Field of Rush hand looks like. When we saw Teal Red lose this, he decided to run out a turn 8 Tryndamere and, kind of stat check the hand of Mint and say, you know, do you have answers for this? And Mint did, and it made the subsequent Feel the Rushes so much weaker. Neukkim doesn't have that option available, did open with the Feel the Rush, so getting a pre-leveled Tryndamere down off of that is a total game changer in a matchup like this. The Ruination not going to be available. Here we're going to see the Avalanche to actually prevent the Feel the Rush on the following turn, but Neukkim has a catalyst to ensure that it still happens.
You know, that's a really good point, Boulevard. You know, for those of you watching, if you're tired of playing against Feel the Rush decks on ladder and you're always losing to them, one of the things that you want to try to do
is play scouts.
Well, yeah, there's also scouts. Yeah, rip scouts. I don't know what happened to that deck, but you want to try to avoid the Trundle leveling. And it's a big difference, especially in this matchup or any matchup, because of that overwhelm tag. And obviously, that's kind of how Feel the Rush wins, is just having these two large units with overwhelm. They basically equal the 20 Nexus health on their own, and you lose. If you're able to make it so that this Feel the Rush is only pulling out a non-overwhelm Trundle, feels a lot better. Feels like you can just throw a chunk blocker in front of it and not really care, but that's not the case. Ruination will take care of it for now, but the Tryndamere, I should say, is going to go ahead and level up, representing a huge swing at the face here for Neukkim.
And one thing that you always feel at least a little okay about when your opponent slams down that Feel the Rush is you know that at the very least there isn't another one coming on the following turn. But Neukkim has Ladros, and when you're down to, 8 life like this and there's this very large overwhelm unit, that's about just as good. And we're going to start off the pillar to test the waters. We might even see Trundle in conjunction with some kind of board wipe here, either the Avalanche or the Withering Whale, just to get that Anivia off the field and take the possibility of an Anivia's Harsh Winds off the table, sort of proactively playing around that champion spell.
Yeah, and also, we're also main decking 2 copies of Harsh Winds, and those are kind of the crux right now for Neukkim, because those just prevent the swings. If we do get another Trundle down and with the overwhelm, Harsh Winds basically just shuts down that attack for 6 mana, which feels pretty good. But there's only so many Harsh Winds, right? And we constantly talk about this, Boulevard. We're gonna, like you mentioned, we're gonna see this board wipe here at the Avalanche. It's always a taunt. Do you kill the Anivia? Do you not kill the Anivia? Do you let it stick around to see another day? Doesn't really matter because your opponent's just going to summon it again. We see 2 Rekindlers in hand. So it just always feels bad committing anything to kill an Anivia, but we do see that here. And like you said, it at least takes that many more Harsh Winds off the table.
And I don't know. I never feel like Harsh Windsing in a situation like this feels good. When Legends of Runeterra first dropped in general, I was very critical of Frostbite effects because they're just a -1. And, you can sit here and, Harsh Winds these 2 giant behemoths all you want, but you're not pushing that much damage onto them with this Tavern Keeper and Avarice and Sentry. It's going to be quite some time before you can actually whittle down that Tryndamere enough to kill it with damage-based removal. And I don't know, I think that unless you can draw another Frostbite effect or start to develop multiple Anivias, which isn't out of the question, right? You can Harsh Winds and Rekindler in the same turn, get down another Rekindler. And I think we're going to see the Harsh Winds here onto the Overwhelms, and then SJW, are we going to get a Battle Pillar? Are we going to Battle Fury this Pillar to push the damage?
I think that as long as Mint keeps up Vengeance mana, I don't think we're going to see that. That would be insane, though. I would love to see a Battle Raged or Battle Fury Pillar right here, but to your point about Harsh Winds, so it's funny because when the game first came out, a lot of people kind of looked at Frostbite as like, that's bad, right? You lose card advantage, like you mentioned. It's one of the reasons I don't really like Harsh Winds in the Anivia deck. I'd rather play something that is getting me just inherent card advantage, like, Vengeance as an example. We already maxed out on Vengeance and Ruination, FYI. So, yeah, I definitely understand that, but there's a reason why Anivia does feel like it needs to play something like Harsh Winds, though, and it's because of these situations. Like, sometimes there's just not enough Vengeance in the world to deal with a bunch of 10-10 champions hitting the field.
I like the Ladros play there. I would have preferred the Battle Pillar. It was technically more damage. And if my opponent throws out a Vengeance onto the Pillar, I feel like that's a trade you're going to be happy with every single time. And now we are just a little bit shy of being able to replay the Ladros on this turn by, say, avalanching, killing it with a block onto the Sentry, and then replaying it. But, not going to be too bad for Neukkim. Is just going to be able to run out these attacks again on the following turn. But the second Harsh Winds, this is not Anivia's Harsh Winds. This is the second organic Harsh Winds picked up by Mint. And this sort of late in the meta adaptation of actually putting Harsh Winds in the main deck of the Anivia is really going to let Mint hold on to his top 8 dreams here.
Yeah, no Chronicler of Ruin in this deck either. I don't know if that's an adaptation people are starting to make again to pull that out. It was actually never really in the first Zombie Anivia type deck. It started showing up more recently, and then it seems like people are not
Ooh,
really.
Atrocity's big.
Yeah, Atrocity off the top here from the side of Neukkim. I mean, that might seal the deal. I mean, we don't quite have enough in hand on the side of Mint to really deal with the whole board here. We might be able to eventually kill this Tryndamere with something like Grasp and the Anivia effects and the Anivia block. Like, we could chump it down eventually. But I just think there's too many options to end the game on the side of Neukkim and not enough options for removal on the side of Mint.
I'm still curious to see if this Battle Fury is going to come up. It doesn't look terrible into a couple of these plays. I mean, you could try to, actually kill the Anivia by putting it on the Tryndamere and then avalanching, but that would cause you to lose your Trundle, so probably not going to go for that. This might actually just end up being a pass back out of Neukkim, not going for any proactivity. You don't even really want to use the Catalyst because you just want to leave up as much of a threat as possible. You want your opponent to think that you still have the mana for another champion or a way to kill and replay the Ladros.
Yeah, and I actually like when that Ladros was played, right? Because I think we were at 11, right? And then we went down to 5 with the Ladros. What that 6 damage does is actually pretty impactful, because if you do get a block onto one of these overwhelms with something like, let's say, this Rekindler or anything really with 5, 4, 3 health, the Anivia is obviously with 5 health or decent blockers, then one overwhelm attack wouldn't be enough to actually take home the game there with Mint having been at 11 health. So I do think that Ladros play was pretty impactful. It is going to die. It's going to go back to hand. I don't know if we're going to see it played again, but I think even with the Vengeance off the top, depending on how this turn plays out,
yeah,
I don't know how Mint deals with an open attack.
I mean, if Neukkim goes for the Ladros, I think you have to proactively use the removal here, play the Grasp and the Vengeance, take out the Tryndamere and the Trundle. It is on Neukimm's priority sequence. I don't see a reason not to play the Ladros. We do know that it wouldn't work out for him super well, and I don't know, maybe he's got a read on it. He's not just slamming it down like you would kind of expect him to, and there's no other play I could really see him making, and he actually does go for the pass over the Ladros slam. Those were sort of the two options.
Yeah. I really like that pass. I mean, so kind of along the same mindset I think that we have, which is need to keep that Atrocity mana open to have in response to something, or even possibly double Atrocity mana, depending on what he thinks his opponent Mint, is possibly thinking that he's on.
Oh, I don't like that pass out of Mint, though. Even if you had gone for, a Grasp onto the Tryndamere, an Atrocity comes out, you Vengeance in response. Now you don't have an Atrocity answer because you didn't want to play a little proactive. Maybe just playing a little bit too scared of the double Atrocity, but you never beat that, and now you lose to the single, and it looks like Neukimm's going to just pick up the fastest series that we've seen thus far.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect example of Mint not playing to win. We just played to not lose there on that last turn. And unfortunately for Mint, Neukkim is going to go ahead and take a quick 2 games for the W.